Hello, I'm making this video for my herbalism course for a Materia Medica project. I chose 3 herbs that I learned from the course and I want to talk about my experiences with them. So the first herb that I chose for my project is stinging nettle. I met stinging nettle for the first time 7 years ago when I first moved to Germany. I grew up in Southern California and I don't remember ever coming across stinging nettle. And when I first met this plant for the first time, it's a very funny story. So I was fresh off the plane. I had been in Germany for a day or two, and I was walking with a group of friends outside, and we were all walking along a path together. And I was walking on the outside of the path. So I was walking like halfway off of it. And I just remember thinking, am I going crazy? I feel like my legs are burning. And I didn't say anything at first because I was with a fairly new group of friends and I didn't want to sound like a crazy person. And I thought maybe this is just in my head. But after a minute or two, I was thinking, no, this is not in my head. This is definitely real. So I turned to a girlfriend who I was closest with in the group and I told her, I know this is going to sound really strange, but my legs, they're burning. Like I think something might be wrong. And she looked at me and she looked down and she was like, oh yeah, that's just Brennisil. And I thought, oh, thank God there's an explanation for this. This is not in my head. She knows what's going on. And she told me, no, you're just brushing up against this plant, stinging nettle. And so I thought, okay, thank God, what a relief. She told me, don't worry, it's gonna go away in a few minutes, and it did. So yeah, that was quite an introduction to this plant. And so I lived here for a few years before I started studying herbalism, and my German wasn't great at the time, and so I couldn't remember the name of the plant. And so instead of just learning the name Brennisil, I started calling it evil plant because I used to go on lots of hikes and I was always outside, and stinging nettle grows everywhere here, and so it's very, very easy to get stung all the time. And so I decided to call it evil plant because it stung me and I thought it was evil. And I feel absolutely horrible for calling stinging nettle that name because it's the opposite of evil, and I take it back. So then finally I met the plant, I started learning herbalism, and I learned about stinging nettle, and I thought, okay, that must be Brennisil. It must be the plant that stings me all the time. And once I started learning about all of its benefits, I got really interested in it, especially because it was a plant that I could identify. Before I started learning herbalism, I wasn't really connected with a lot of plants. I knew about benefits of herbs because I had always been interested in nutrition and health, but I wasn't good at going out and identifying plants out in the wild. So I was very excited to start working with stinging nettle for the first time because it was a plant that I had met out and about in the wild. So since then, I have become very, very good friends with stinging nettle. I especially like it in the spring. I always crave it in the spring because growing up in California, I never experienced allergies, but once I moved to Germany, oh my gosh, the allergies are real and they are really annoying. And so I would get daily allergy medication to take. And even with the allergy medication, my symptoms were still awful. But at least the medication made it bearable. And once I started learning that herbs and plants could help me, and other holistic strategies could help me, I started adopting those. And since taking stinging nettle daily in the spring, along with a few other long infusion herbs, goldenrod is in there too, I have not needed to take daily allergy medication, which really blows my mind. It's something that it's there, and has really changed my my springtime experience, and it's very clear to me that this is what helps, because I've learned that it's ideal to take stinging nettle or herbs that help with allergies about a month or as long ahead of time before your allergies start. I have not been successful at doing that. I start taking them as soon as my allergy symptoms appear. Then I think, oh yeah, that's right, herbs that help with allergies. And so then I start with my stinging nettle blend, and even that, it helps basically right away. So I know that that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it really is the case. I start taking it and almost instantly it helps. And once I start taking it more consistently, it helps even more. So that has been something that I am super grateful for. I usually only work with stinging nettle in the spring. It just happens that way. I find that I crave and gravitate towards different herbs in different seasons or different times of year. And that's when I really crave stinging nettle. And during this time, I have gotten 1 or 2 compliments from people saying, wow, your hair is glowing, your skin is glowing. And I have a feeling that might have something to do with stinging nettle. So I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling. It's also hard to say how much of my blend, the allergy blend, is due just to the stinging nettle, because I've never tried only taking goldenrod or only taking stinging nettle during springtime for allergies. But I kind of think at the moment, because I know that the combination works, I'd kind of rather just stick with it. Yes, and what else for stinging nettle? I love stinging nettle seeds. They're so great. It's an adaptogen that I take, I eat, and I notice right away that I have more energy. I've also found that some days, or often when I take stinging nettle seeds, I don't even want coffee or other caffeine that day. And I think that's pretty cool. And I definitely notice that the energy boost, and it's a mood lifter for me. So I think the two might go hand in hand, but I really feel that. I've only worked with stinging nettle seeds by eating them, and I've heard that you should grind them to help break them down and so you can absorb them easier. I haven't. I've honestly just eaten them or put them on bread or something and eaten them, and that's worked for me. I feel it in my body quite quickly. So that's pretty exciting. I have tried working a little bit with stinging nettle for the sting. I haven't done it consistently enough to be able to say if I really feel any difference or help with it. So maybe I'll do that in the future, but I haven't worked with it enough to say that it's helped with any joint pain or anything like that. But I am interested in it. I have not yet worked with the roots, and I have made stinging nettle pesto with fresh stinging nettle leaves. So that's been really fun. It's one of the first wild plant edible dish I've made, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that. I've recommended stinging nettle leaves to other people, especially when it comes to seasonal allergies. I haven't heard anything back from people about it. Besides, one person told me that they noticed that they really dried themselves out with it. So I suggested that they might want to try some other herbs in there with the blend so it's not as drying. Yeah, so stinging nettle, I'm very happy to have it in my life. So the next herb I want to talk about is Damiana. I feel good when I drink Damiana. I really like it. I like it in a lot of my blends. I think it tastes really good, and I'm just a really big fan. even though I run warm and dry, I find that it doesn't dry me out that much, and it doesn't warm me up to an uncomfortable level. So even though it does run on the warm and dry side, how it feels in my body, it doesn't feel like it's super drying or warming, because there are other herbs that are drying, and when I drink it, it dries me out. Like sage. I used to drink a tea blend with sage, and I even just drinking a cup of it a day, I couldn't do it anymore. And since then I've been a little turned off by it. Maybe I'll try it again in the future with some other herbs that help balance it out. But Damiana doesn't do that to me. It works in my body. I feel good with it. So I have a fun story with Damiana. So I decided to take Damiana as my herb of the week a few years ago, and I made a full liter of Damiana tea, just plain pure Damiana tea, and I was drinking it, and all of a sudden I really felt just like a surge of creativity come through my body. And I was working, I was inspired to start doing an herbal blog, and I thought of all these great ideas, and it was just, I stayed up late that night because I just really felt a burst of creativity, and I was so excited about it. And I didn't attribute it to the Damiana, but then the following day, I was either reading through my Materia Medica entry or watching a lecture on Damiana, and then I saw that Damiana is associated with creativity, and I just got so excited about it. And yeah, I felt it. I don't feel that way every time to that extent that I drink Damiana, but man, I really felt it that night, and I'm a big believer that it really is tied to creativity, and I just think that's super cool. When I drink Damiana, I feel relaxed, but not tired in any way, almost the opposite. I don't want to say that it gives me energy to the extent that it keeps me up at night. And I really do feel that way because Damiana finds its way into my sleep tincture blend. But when I take it during the day or when I am not trying to go to sleep, I really feel a calmness, but almost some kind of focus. Or I know that it's a circulatory stimulant, and it really helps bring the flow of blood to your extremities and specifically to the pelvic region. But I almost wonder if it has any affinity for the brain or something like that, because I really feel like I get some kind of like focus from it. I feel it, and so I'm curious to keep on working with it and see if that continues, because yeah, I feel good when I take Damiana. If I take it just drinking it 1 cup, it does calm me down, and when I drink it long term, I really feel it. I wonder if it makes me feel even more calm in the moment because I have that association, because I have felt that way drinking it over time. But I really do feel that calmness when I drink it in the moment. So I made an Instagram post about Damiana for creativity and my experience with it. And a few of my friends saw it and they went out and bought Damiana, which I'm super excited about, because anytime anybody drinks more tea, I think that's a pretty good thing to do. So I was really excited to hear that that some of my friends went out and bought Damiana tea. None of them told me that they had experiences like that, but they all told me that they really enjoy it. And it was interesting to hear what they like to blend their tea with, because it was all things that I did not blend my Damiana with. I had one friend that liked to blend it with sour things, with hibiscus and with lemon juice, which I would have never thought of. So that was pretty interesting to hear. And it was always good to hear other people enjoy it as well. Yeah, like I said, I like to put it in my sleep blend. I my blend is usually mugwort, maybe one or two other herbs, and Damiana is always in there. And ever since I had that experience with the creativity, I kind of like to have it in my sleep blend. I don't know if there's any merit to this, but I just think because I'm interested in dream work and I like to have mugwort in there, I almost wonder if Damiana has any influence on dreams and add some creativity to it. So yeah, I like to add it to my dream blend and to my sleep blend. Yes, I've also put Damiana in my muscle liniment, so my muscle rub, and that's been really lovely. There's a bunch of other relaxant herbs in there, so it's hard to say because I've never used Damiana on its own as a rub. Maybe I'll try that because it would be interesting to see. But yes, I really enjoy Damiana. I've taken it as a tincture, I've drunk it as tea, and like I said, I've had it as a liniment, and I'm a big fan. I'm drinking some right now. Okay, and so the last herb that I want to talk about is Tulsi. It would be insane if I didn't choose Tulsi because I am Tulsi's #1 fan, or I guess I'm one of Tulsi's #1 fans, because I think a lot of people love Tulsi because it's pretty amazing. So when I first started studying herbalism or getting into herbalism, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, a little bit of depression maybe sprinkled in there, just because I think it might have been brought on by the anxiety. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, and that made me anxious, and I think there might have been a few other things added onto it. And so I was very drawn to nervine herbs and herbs to help help get me grounded and help with anxiety. So Tulsi was one of the herbs that was in the first batch of herbs that I ever bought. And oh boy, I loved it right away. It tastes great. I like drinking it on its own, and it literally is almost in every single blend that I make because Tulsi makes everything better. I think it was a lecture I was listening to the other day where you said that Tulsi can help you when you drink just a cup of it, but the longer you drink it, the more it helps. Yes. It's so true. You drink a cup of it and it makes you feel better. It's a little different than Damiana. I feel like there's a little bit more of an uplifting, mood boosting quality to Tulsi, but also calming at the same time. And the more I drink it, the better my baseline gets, the better my overall baseline anxiety or mood is. And I stuck with Tulsi every day for months and months. And when I first started drinking my tea blend, and there were multiple herbs in this blend, but Tulsi was always in the blend. After a few months, I stopped having anxiety attacks, and I'm sure there's more to it because I think there's always more than one thing that goes into a situation. There's not just one fix, but I really attribute Tulsi to that. It really helped bring my baseline to a different place, and I will be forever grateful to Tulsi. I drink it as a tea. I make it as a tincture. It's in a lot of my tincture blends. My favorite tincture blend that I make is a Tulsi calamus blend, and it is just so nice. I like to take it in the moment if I'm feeling stressed. If I feel like this happened more so in the past when I was going and felt more consistent anxiety or stress, I would take it 2 to 3 times a day, and it really helped. My husband also loves this blend, and he really feels calmed by it as well. So much so that whenever his friend has a birthday, he always asks if I'll make them a Tulsi and calamus blend. And everybody that we've given to has loved it. I have recommended Tulsi to so many people, and so many people tell me that it helps them so much. I know somebody that works the night shift as a nurse, and she said that she feels a little bit on edge. And since drinking Tulsi at work, she feels a sense of calm. And so that's really interesting to hear and exciting to hear. Yeah, good. Tulsi. It's the best. So that's my experience with these 3 herbs. It was hard to just narrow it down to 3, but this was a really fun assignment. Just going back and seeing my experiences compared to what I learned theoretically about herbs. And yeah, so thank you and cheers.